so I'm going to do it right now, and everyone else should do that too. Welcome. I'm so glad everyone's here. So excited about this book, and it's good to see many people we know, and I want to say hi to everyone on the live stream also. Welcome to you. Loosestrife for Porcupines was a finalist for the 2025 Blue Light Book Award. Yes, still not. Goodness. Oh, I have to stay. Oh, right here. Sweet spot. Okay. So I am honored and happy to introduce and in so many cases, our good friend, Diana Gordon. And now forgive me, because this is a big moment, and so this will not be very brief. Many, if not most of you, know Diana personally, via poetry or horses or music, or simply having been lucky enough to meet her on one of her varied paths. But a few biographical things must be said. Diana Gordon lives with her family in western Massachusetts at the edge of a long field, which is a veritable character in this book, ringed by woods that attracts many creaturely visitors. Her poetry collection, Nightly at the Institute of the Possible, was a finalist for the Massachusetts Book Award. Her story, The Work of Hunters is Another Thing, won a first prize from Glimmer Train. She's a Massachusetts Cultural Council Fellow in fiction and two-time finalist in poetry. As the editor of Hedgerow Books, she midwifed 11 books of poetry into being, several of which were shortlisted for national awards. Short works in multiple genres have been published everywhere from the Cincinnati Review to Lady Churchill's Rosebud Wristlet and Poetry Daily. And she has 2 full-length novels under contract. Gabrielle is due from Sibylline Press in 2027 and Etta in 2028. I don't know where she gets this many hours in the day, but she does. I'm not the only one who has read them. I know other people in this room have read these books and can tell you how unbelievable they are. So we have to wait to have them in our hands, but we'll be back. And you can read excerpts from those novels on her website. The welcome page to Diana's website greets us thusly. D.M. Gordon is a poet and novelist with questions. It's just a great way to start. The first question she shares is, have we been wise? And then, have we grasped our small happinesses as tightly as knights once held their lances in the lists? Or did we drop them at first sight of our visored opponent on his war horse? Both of these thoughtful, provocative quotes are from the book we're here to hear from. And how very Diana, by which I mean how appropriate to her worldview, that the first poem of the book, Tournaments, opens with, "Did you mean to blame the boding clouds for adding to our confusion?" Which prods me to ask myself, do we humans not blame everyone and everything else for our problems, and are we not confused? Diana doesn't shy away from our collective and particular frailties, flaws, and absurdities vis-a-vis each other and in relation to the natural world. But her clear-eyed critique is softened and deepened by 2 things we humans truly need, now more than ever, humor and beauty. The poems in this book deepen our gratitude for the non-human world, especially the creatures, but also rocks and clouds and every other damn thing she sets her eyes on. A quick snapshot of the range and contents. The second piece in the book, a prose poem, is entitled Radishes, and the title, and then 2 words, craving joy. I love that just for a minute, it's the radishes doing the craving. What follows is a human scene so lovely that by the last stanza, the speaker blurts out, "I surrender this illusion that happiness lives on a lake in Italy." And then, still, there's something about slow. The next poems give us capybaras like monks, the next a conversation with an oyster. This is a human to whatever creature, but especially a long, deep connection to horses, and has a poem entitled, "Why I'm Glad This Poem Is Not a Horse." It will make you cry. Flipping through this book, there are so many places one needs to stop, turn down the corner of a page, jot phrases or whole sentences to remember. What a world of care and humor and brilliant rumination. In the words of the wonderful poet Eleanor Wilner, seldom do we have the privilege of seeing through eyes so open, so discerning, so disconcerting, refusing the illusions with which we too easily screen reality. These are poems whose mastery of craft enables their clarity of vision, whose cadence, language, and wit enlivens poems that seem written for our threatened time. How I admire their candor, the cool stamina of these poems, along with their warm affection, their knowledge of pasture and parlor, the full keyboard. This is all nature and art. I have to say that I know no one else as attentive to our world as Diana is, and I'll close my wandering with this small, wondrous bit from Homo Sapiens, one of many poems born of the long field. And the stags, meticulous with ruin, rub their antlers, sharpening the next moment. Happily, our next moment includes poems from this wonderful book. Please welcome Diana.
Thank you, Ellen. Aw, everybody should have an Ellen. Someone who shares the wrinkles and complexities, the joys and frustrations, and always has the pitch-perfect response of love and wisdom and support. And everybody should get to have an introduction by Ellen. I wish it all on you. I've also been gifted by my critique group. Closer. I've also been gifted by my critique group. I'm the junior most member by 14 years. I'm the newest member to the group, and we've met every month of all those 14 years religiously. And I count on them to save me from myself, and Lord knows they try. As many of you know, there have been years of battered invisibility as a writer, and these poets, these friends, with their smarts, their irreverence, and their own extraordinary work, have kept the spark alive in me. Without them, this book wouldn't exist. Nor would it exist without Vati, who's listening. Hi, Vati. We're actually joined by a number of people in Sweden, in Gotland, in Japan, in Washington, in Florida. And if they're not here right now, it's because they're sleeping, and they'll be here with us tomorrow morning. But Vati is here, and she's listening bedbound in Worthington right now, where she mounts a daily triumph over pain to lead a vibrant life, from engaging with the birds in her window feeder to her active participation in online writing groups. A couple of years ago, Vati asked me to read to her, then listened with such incredible attention and intelligence, and then poked me to try for publication one last time. What a gift that has been. And here we are. I want to thank Forbes, too, the gift of this room and the community they build and sustain for us. As Dawn knows, sitting in the front seat, for 10 years here, we had a remarkable discussion around poems every Monday night. Anybody could walk in, and they did. Mailmen, veterans, poetry professors, craft people, homeless people, poets. We'd read a poem, Seamus Heaney, Gerald Stern, Rita Dove, and people would just say their truth, and we'd leave grateful for hearing each other. That's just a sliver of what Forbes keeps offering. And here we are. Can you all hear? Okay. And how's everybody doing? You doing good? I got thumbs up from Maya. We are living through a time, all of us, proverbial, historical, painful, interesting, like the curse. If you ask Patricia and Jesse how they're doing, they always say, great. And how I aspire to be like that every time I hear them say that. Patricia always says that. Curiously, if you ask a friend, someone, how they are, and they say, pretty good, you can have a fairly good idea that it's all going to hell in a handbasket. Have you ever noticed that? When you ask somebody and they say pretty good, it's like, oh, I have to chase that one down. If they say they're fine, that's possibly another degree of disaster. So I'm going to cleverly segue to fine is a 4-letter word that begins with F. I'm fine, soul sick, bone chilled, anxiety ridden, but really, I'm fine. I bought a dolorimeter, a steampunk pressure gauge that measures pain. Think lit cigarette applied to the skin. The dial says, I'm fine. It doesn't sense the elephant in the room, pressing its ass on the window, glass shattering, the elephant on my shoulder, the elephant on my chest, collapsing my ribs. I revere elephants, just not this one, now crushing my heart, malign animal, and oh my God, I can't breathe. But don't worry, I'll be fine. I'll just lie on this floor, on the glass shards, and imagine fruited plains, skies not cloudy all day, sea to shining sea. This land, made for you and me. I'm rhyming, but the dolorimeter is still saying I'm fine. It might be a lemon, though. I might need to take it back. Conversation with a bivalve in blue light. When the moon painted the stone beach blue and fiddler crabs raised their machine gun claws like a clutter of tiny gangsters, the oyster said to me, watch out for the barnacles, but didn't really mean it. The oyster said, it's wrong, you on my beach stumbling in the dark. This was slightly more sincere. Is there no place safe from you? I answered, at least I'm not stuck on a rock. The black sea glistened. Weak waves slapped. Ranging far, I carry listable sorrows. I've seen and heard much, too much. All around, little voices of limpets murmur. It's unsettling, the power we have. How easily the oyster separates from its foot with the shucking knife, slips alive down my throat, a little mignonette and wasabi, the closest I, the civilized, the compassionate fan of butterflies and dung beetles, come to heathen. Ruffle and viscera, the soft flesh pleasing and complex as Chateau Lafitte Rothschild. I am the oyster's monster. It's not a dishonest animal. But here, for only a moment, I, too often for the general good, have the last word. So if you suspect metaphors are lurking underneath the surface here, Yeah, they are. And anywhere that you think, was that? Yeah, it probably was. Every morning, I wander into the kitchen sleepily, and I start the electric kettle and wait for the water to boil. And you know that sound it makes? That curious sound that when the water comes to boil, it's kind of it's a funny sound for water. I wonder about it. Protest. Water heating is a different beast, unnatural, a roar, no burble, unmusical, a galaxy of molecules brought to boil. Screaming micro-lobsters, I imagine. We've discovered microbes twit like finches when alarmed. So why not the H's and the O's when forced to be steam? Single-celled planktons broadcast their distress in the oceans, raise tiny chalk shields. Some kill themselves to slow viral invasions of their species. And so, making tea, I'm listening to electrons scrabbling at this steel wall, crying out throatlessly, clinging like little me's, like my life heating up, doing all they can to stay the way they are. And then there's that drive that you do every day. You know, the one you go back and forth to the grocery store, you're doing it again, you go to the post office, you do it 4 times a week, 5 times a week. It's that stretch of road. And it's the same, thankfully, day after day. But occasionally, it's not. Occasionally, something bizarre happens. And recently, it seems like bizarre things are happening more frequently, because like interesting times, right? So y'all here for reading because supposedly I'm going to tell you little things that you can't get reading from the book. So I'm going to say that all the things in this poem have happened within a half mile of my driveway when I'm almost home. Driving through storms. Yeah, Star, your house. Driving past your house. Okay. Driving through storms. 2 mice skitter and escape my tires. A white skunk waddles along the yellow line. And then I almost hit a cat. Electric lines writhe in the road, and the radio turns to static. Peace for a moment. I am thankful. Then the sky, punk with rocks, throws hailstones. A tree explodes. It snows. Floods fill the streets with icebergs, and storms become magnificent beyond measure. The sun, the green, the ice, the hail, the snow, the sun, the mice. So now we're going to talk a little bit about spiders. I've labeled a little bit about this program. I gave you a program. It comes from my history as a musician, where you go to a classical concert and you see a whole program with the string quartets and the composers, and you kind of know where you are and you know where you've been. And I just thought that'd be really nice to have for a poetry reading. And this section is called Spidey Senses. And spiders give a lot of people the heebie-jeebies. And if they give you the creeps, I apologize in advance. But I'm fascinated by all the little lives living themselves out around us, even spiders. And do y'all know about garden spiders? Who here knows about garden spiders? You do. Nyla? There's a lot of naturalists here. Garden spiders are big. They're like this big, and they're really pretty, and they're harmless. And they're also known as writing spiders because when they make their web, they write what looks like a line of cursive in their web. It's called Stublamentum. And every night, they write this thing, and then every night, well, you'll have to wait to the end of the poem to see what they do with it. But there's also an easy word in here that might be hard to hear, which is rune. And it's not ruin like archaeological, it's rune, R-U-N-E, like magical letters. Yeah. So, Argiope Orantula. Why have you left the field to write in this window? What's your spin, spider? Yellow, gold, and black, and silver-shelled and flirty goth. Tatting silk-scribbled verse, you straddle head down, eight-eyed, waiting for feedback. A sonnet? Maybe. I see a couplet in your webby runes, lines to a suicidal mate whom you call to his not-so-little death. You publish a truth, poet, which I desire and cannot read. And even as I watch, prayerfully each night, you eat it. I think there's only one season, maybe two, where you walk through the woods. There's just a certain time of year where you walk through the woods and there's these little single lines of spider webs across the trails. You know that? They just show up. And sometimes I'm tempted to walk out with a stick in front of my face because, your face does the breaking. That's how you know it's there. And you have to wonder about that. What's going on with those long, across the trail spider webs? And thinking about that, the title of this poem is Double Helix, which refers to DNA, which is, of course, the instructions that make us all. Giraffes and spiders and leaf sheep, which are my new loves that live in the ocean. And, yeah, I said those in the wrong order, but okay, now it's time for the poem. Double Helix. When I walk through the woods that border the long field, snapping spider silk with my face, I puzzle the tiny tightrope walkers, not weaving in safe places, but bridging pine to pine, the way certain high-wire artists span skyscrapers, because their fathers and forefathers balanced in the old country, then here, in latex and spangles, on a bicycle, supporting two brothers, holding a pole that supports a daughter who supports her daughter standing on her head. You know the act. For other families, it's Harvard or heroin. So, forest spiders, how wondrous, the how, the why, snapping spider silk with my face. Okay. Shall we switch species for a moment? Get you out of Spiderland. We like Spiderland. Yay. Amazing numbers of people have written poems about spiders. I thought I was special. Then I was telling my friends about all my spider poems. And to a person, everybody looked at me blankly, and then I said, I just wrote a poem about a spider. I wasn't going to tell this story. I wrote a poem about a spider. And everybody looked at me blankly, and they said, I have a spider poem. So I stopped telling everybody about my spider poems. Why I'm glad this poem is not a horse. It does not weigh 1,500 pounds. If I trot it into a scary place, it will not freak out with me clinging to the reins. My poem believes bears are splendid, even suddenly face-to-face in a corn row. I can wait. My poem can watch. It won't bolt, even if the sow is the largest we've ever met, even if she rises on her hind feet. Walking in the woods, my poem listens to the narrow stream. Never gathers itself in a 20-foot leap to avoid getting its hoofs wet. True, my poem might colic, go belly up from digesting the wrong thing. It happens. But it will not look at me with dying eyes, eyes I have loved for years, now afraid. It will not wordlessly call from the wastepaper basket, "Save me, save me." I will not need a gun. So, a number of years ago, more than I want to admit, I discovered the phrase, "a murder of crows." I was so proud of myself. It was really cool. It's one of those arcane words for the groupings of animals. And I used it. And I thought I was so clever. And fast forward about 10 years and the internet, and then all of a sudden, everybody was using murder of crows. And they all thought they were so clever. And I got a little disgruntled, and I have to admit, proprietary. I thought I owned the phrase, but you know what? I didn't. I don't. Of a feather. And enough with a murder of crows. The meme is shop-worn. Instead, let's talk a parliament of owls, or a basque of alligators. And how many owls make a parliament exactly? Someone has not thought this one through. Owls I've known have been solitary. Over the long field one calls, from afar another answers. Nesting, they whistle, and burble at intimate moments, then go their own way. Congregation? When was the last time you saw a swarm of owls? I have seen a murder of crows, though, murdering. Scores of black shapes diving on the wrecked feathers of a fellow corvid, struggling to survive. Others in the grass striding on the outskirts, jutting their heads like bribed judges, sheeny in iron-burnt robes. And what was the crime of the one to the many? Did its odor change from illness? Did it discover in its male body female predilections? Or did it have a fearsome understanding so irrefutable it had to die? Summers ago, the crazy uncle of our crow family never shut up. The same four blasts all day long, every day for weeks. Then silence. Now the horror is happening again, carried out in the long field over a medieval hour until the damaged one is dragging itself deep into the bracken, covered by a tangle of black bodies. The furious parliament, the murder, the mob. The rapture. The rapture. The spiders knew. They gave up their spidery housekeeping, the vacuuming and the spinning, their dutiful lovemaking. The males stopped stalking their competition, and the females unburdened themselves of their young. We didn't notice much at first. A clutter explored my brother's cast-off crutches. Some scaled the picket fence. But soon we saw them everywhere, the bulbous and the wispy, moving up the trunks of trees and on the sides, barns and houses. This was the first day. People saw it as a sign, and we gathered at the church. We prayed. They crawled up the steeple. Then the news reported arachnids on the One World Trade Center and the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Spiders scrabbled towards the sky. Hardier specimens stowed away in Sherpa packs on Everest, and engineers noticed them on launch pads. On the second day, the front page of the Times showed them on the cheeks of the Sphinx. We prayed harder, begged atonement, ready to relinquish earthly things with nervous joy. My brother came home from LSU. The stock exchanges stopped. People spoke in tongues or wept, and everyone sent pictures from their cell phones. Some drank their old vintages, while others prepared meals of endangered species. Spiders were climbing out of canyons and into canopies, leaving gossamer trails. Who knew so many lived among us? And so we didn't sleep, my brother and I. We waited for the rapture on the porch. When the spiders reached their peaks, chimneys, treetops, towers, they created silk balloons. Planet-wide, the named and nameless winds began to stir. And on the third day, they departed, a blizzard of small black angels darkening the earth below. We knelt down. Take us, we called to God. Oh, take us now. But the sky emptied and returned to blue. The horses grazed, and our cats, as ever, whined for dinner. It was over. It was over. A new hollow occupies our hearts. My brother says the obvious. The rapture was not for us. It was the spiders that God called. So, moving along cheerily. Again, every day you wake up, and each day, for the most part, is like the day before. Thankfully, right? Every day. But every once in a while, something happens that's so monumental, it changes everything. And you don't see it coming. And on those days, I think, you never know what's going to happen when you wake up in the morning. And sometimes I'm chilled, and I think, there's something waiting just beyond the horizon, just beyond the trees. Something waiting. Eagle. It's spring. The edible smell of grass, crushed by two white puppies wrestling, one with the tail in the other's mouth. Teenage dandelions, all about yellow, all about sex with bees, and hours away from going to seed. Something about sky. Something in the fragrant spores drifting up from the soil about sky. Something slices through the air, wings like two sabers joined, too large to be flying this close to the ground, more massive than my outstretched arms, fiercer than my throat. Something hungry, making sun shadows into a lethal game of tag with the puppies, like a drone, anywhere, everywhere, loaded with missiles, heat-seeking. When the sky is empty, it can zip open. You will not see the eagle coming. This is going to take a turn towards cheery towards the end, but we're still getting there. So, and Marta was going to come tonight. So many people were going to come tonight. Marta's home with COVID. Janet's home with the flu, and Barbara's home with a cold. And I know everybody's ailment in the last 24 hours. Anyway. I was going to ask Marta about this because she's Ukrainian. But did you guys notice about 2 years ago that we always called Kiev, Kiev, and then all of a sudden all the broadcasters started saying Kyiv? And do you guys know why? Because, do you want to say? Molly, do you want to say? Yeah. So the Russians say Kiev, and the Ukrainians say Kyiv. To Yaroslava. I'm box breathing in counts of 4. It's bad here. Worse there. Worsening. You post sun-dappled chestnuts, saying some might think it's crazy to look for beauty in the middle of war. Gold husks on fallen leaves. I box breathe for us. Saying fragile and beautiful, you video a man hunched over a white piano in a piazza, Kyiv skyline in the distance, a Slavic song, moody jazz. The ancient spinet rasps, having swallowed smoke in basement bars, and a yellow apple sits atop the instrument. People stroll by as if war isn't coming after dark. You film the train station, high-ceilinged, full of light and art. You take us along a park path through the great city, miles of tender plantings, magentas, grasses, and ivies, people reading books on benches. This is your love poem to Kyiv. You report attacks last night, people killed while sleeping. It's bad here, worse there. I send you the photo of a malachite butterfly poised on the slope of a green leaf. I send you a peach tree in bloom painted by Van Gogh and Arles, also sun-dappled. I pray Neruda's prayer for us, that we may all keep still for once on the face of the earth. This next one, I keep thinking, is going to be outdated. There are portions of this poem that I wrote years ago. And we're coming up on another November. The nth November. I never fully wake on gray winter days when snowflakes start robbing evergreens of green, and I'm glazed with dreams spent surfing, young again, smoking cigarillos on a broad beach and enjoying the sun-kissed bodies. Everyone chanting, "Be the change you want." I wish I could embrace this wordless blanketing, treasure how the window glass keeps out the cold, knowing that everything dirty, withered, now snow-hidden, will be overwhelmed with new growth in time. And I wish I could say to the unsavable world, let the sun shine in. To my lost power to fight the undertow, I wish it was consoling to think that if snowing in Bar Harbor on Oahu, someone jubilant is wading into the surf, not afraid of the seaward pull. And I wish it were okay as the nation tears itself apart again to stand at the window and just watch the snow. We are exhausted. We speak in different tongues. People not my people wear t-shirts saying rope, noose, journalist. A wasp refusing to give up zigzags around the room, trying to understand the walls. Brio and Luna barking at snow devils aren't distraction for this grief. Nor the naked lady pictured poising, defiant, a ballot as a fig leaf. Now comes the supermoon. Again, right? I pick it off my shoulder and hold it up stiff-armed in front of me, lift my face to its face. It is temporal. It is beautiful, caught in the rose smoke of a nation on fire. It will fly away, no matter how I try to hold it. Reading this over, I almost didn't include this one, but there's a spider in it, so it's not long. Point of view. I hear the winds moan forced through the casings of this old house, needling loose panes and dried putty. Unnerving howls of the zeitgeist manifest, a rise and fall chorus in minor thirds. Vibrations buzzing in my ribs, whirlwinds whining through rooms and hallways, and yet, after the rain relents, on the blue floor of the painted porch, here's a tiny six-eyed spider standing on the radiant skin of puddled water. Stopping to stare at me, both of us speechless. For what does it see with all those eyes but a person who loves being alive? Free without bail, no crimes, no litigations, owning at most small sins, yet guilty of living now, apologizing for every human breath she takes. And now, something completely different. I bet you're ready. The broadcast. Great Aunt Gracie's television is never off. Black and white on a stand with rabbit ears, relics from the last century. She turned 108 last week. Her ginger cat has been shedding on the couch and bringing little gifts. Mouse tail under the recliner, mouse kidney on the way to the kitchenette. The fake fireplace blows air into dancing paper flames as her bowl of soup grows cold on the folding table. On screen, the broadcaster is struggling to speak. His tongue is thickening. Consonants soften. Vowels are getting stuck. He cannot cast broadly. Something is bulging backwards up his throat. He cups his palms to the side of his neck and starts to cough. What he is about to say is of national significance. His fan, the president, is watching. He tries to continue, choking. The production team starts to cut to a commercial, but he holds up a finger. "Wait," he signals. And the team does not cut away because they suspect this is going to be good. And it is. The broadcaster hawks a fur ball. A glittery, gauzy, spittle-covered fur ball. Out of its center onto his desk clinks a bit of space debris, stardust essentially, compressed, sharp, very old. It twinkles in the Klieg lights. The broadcaster stares at it and then into the camera, flummoxed. A fleck of blood speckles his chin. When he finds his voice, he announces, "I don't know what just happened." He tries to continue, but out comes truth. He tries again. More truth. He finds he cannot lie. We're getting there. I know a couple people have to leave, and they're here. I'm so grateful. Let's see. Ursus americanus. There is nothing black like bear. Bear, black, fog or sun. Blair, black at the far edges of the field. This morning, lying on steaming clover, appearing to sleep, to rise, to sleep. A log, a bear, a log. Unnatural, injured or diseased, insane with ticks. Maybe she ate the blue mushrooms behind the barn, this rising, lying, rising, this mist, this wild black that, were to I to interfere, attempt to help, she'd ripple blackly into the yellow woods and continue out of sight, rising, lying, rising. The hours go on, the down, up, down. I want this living thing to be as bare, to snuffle, climb, and mate, spray birdseed from fragile feeders, and watch her cubs swat acorns. But instead, afternoon slips to dusk. I call Bud Merritt, his scope and bore, his best bullets, and long practice. Call him to this rising, lying, rising, this intervention, to this madness at the edge of the mowing. Anything to stop this hopeless, incurable year. And we need a porcupine, right? There are porcupines in here, but we need one at least for tonight. So as we're getting close to the end here. So this is where your program comes in handy, right? You can see where we're at. Marked, unmarked. What old calendar, paper, food-stained, keeps the last date my son stretched to be held in my arms? The moment unmarked, swallowed by years. What year, what day, will hold the last night of making love? The last day of my full height. Maybe today will be the last time the porcupine will sit under my window eating all the crab apples, reciting a beatitude. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. His sweetness of eye, monk-like waddle. If he had a robe and cuffs, he would tuck his paws, pacifist that he is, keeper of the golden rule. Don't touch me, and I won't touch you. How he loves pumpkins. How he makes porcupine love, that mystery. All the lonely porcupines muttering. Maybe this will be the last day I greet my husband, who loves pumpkins and observes the golden rule. The last day, my dog. My last time with you. As it was with Galway, here, then gone a long time. On that day, I spent $6 on blackberries flown from Holland, too late for local, and ate the pint in his honor, the flare of juice, their caviar on my tongue before swallowing. Radishes craving joy, Ellen. Radishes. I was craving joy. Radishes, craving joy. Even on good days, disquiet lurks. And isn't happiness the one imperative? On lesser matters, timing, phrasing, nuance, a chamber music coach once counseled, if it were easy, most people would pull it off. A trip to Lake Como might do, right? A flight, first class, a boutique hotel, verdant grounds. A resident golden retriever, canine calm, learns tableside, waiting for her grizzled old man to finish his meal in the kitchen. Musky wine, fresh rolls. Romaine dressed in sardines and olives. Maybe it's raining lightly on old stone. Languorous slappings of the lake. Azaleas. After lunch, the man launches his skiff, dog at prow, and in an hour or 4, in mist over pearl gray water, they bring back trout for his wife, the chef. I see her freckled hands slicing radishes, hear the knife whisper through the crisp white flesh, while he sets tables in the small dining room, the dog watching in the long shadow of late afternoon. All 3 living well in time. Lentamente. I surrender this illusion that happiness lives on a lake in Italy. Still, there's something about slow, something about the knife. I have one. I intend to sharpen it, attend its whisper slice and nothing else. How hard can it be? So, there's something about the 7 deadly sins that's exactly like the 7 dwarfs. Right? Do you know what I'm about to say? How you can always name 5 or 6 of them, and then the 7th one is just like gone. Anybody want to take a crack at the 7 dwarfs here? No? Okay. 7 deadly sins? Well, you're in luck. I wrote them down because I wasn't going to be able to remember the last one. So, where are they? Oh, one other thing. We're just almost at the end. One more thing. There is a 50-buck word in this poem. It's fecundate, which is a very lyrical word for the other F word, which isn't fine, nor was fine the only F word in that first poem, but I hope you all got the inference. Anyway, fecundate. The 7 deadly sins are as follows: pride, greed, lust. I really was going to tease this all out of you, but we're going on too long, so I'm just going to give it to you. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Sloth. Yeah, you know. Sloth is the best. I'm going to make my case, Sarah. Other sins more deadly. I wish to be a 3-toed sloth. So on my head, when I fall into sleep, a researcher might place a petri dish of water blessed by every known religion. To sleep with all assurance that sleeping is divine. To wake and show that through the night I'd kept the dish aligned. To stay ignorant of jungle news. Mirror-eyed, bemused. To fecundate my silky loves sparingly. Be slow to mate. To live in the world, disguised as the world, unnoticed as a stone. And so sprawl moss-like in a tree, aging inconceivably. And my idea for the last poem is, I don't know about you, but poems, you have to pay a lot of attention, and poetry readings get long, and I get glazed as they go on a little bit. So the last poem is on the card in your lap. Everybody has a picture of a cathedral. They're not all the same. But if you're tired, you might appreciate just following along. When I was in graduate school, I used to go to Symphony Hall and bring big scores to keep in my lap, and I loved doing that, so I like following along. Okay. Mosses and ivies. Wait. Hi, Evan. Mosses and ivies. Write to me in your unpracticed hand. Do not text. A postcard with a stamp. Write until you run out of room. Up the sides in smaller and smaller letters, dear little E's, outrageous Y's, and confusing S's. Send a photograph of the cathedral, the stonework of generations, masons, oxen, horses, and say how you got there. Where once the rich brought chairs to worship while everyone else stood. Now the forest grows, blackthorn in the sacristy, mosses and ivies, a goodly, godly stream murmuring over the flooring stones. All that green, as if it were always the plan of the forest, I mean. Tell me you aren't lost, that your brain isn't frenzied, that it's real, that you haven't heard the latest, that in the roofless nave you understand finally what it all means. For I do not. Write to me. Thank you.